The Eastern Algonquin languages constitute a subgroup of the Algonquin languages. Prior to European contact, Eastern Algonquin consisted of at least 17 languages, collectively occupying the Atlantic coast of North America and adjacent inland areas from what are now known as the Canadian Maritime Provinces to North Carolina. The available information about individual languages varies widely. Some are known only from one or two documents containing words and phrases collected by missionaries, explorers or settlers, and some documents contain fragmentary evidence about more than one language or dialect. Nearly all of the Eastern Algonquin languages are extinct. Mi'kmaq and Malisite Passamaquoddy have appreciable numbers of speakers, but Western Abenaki and Delaware are each reported to have fewer than 10 speakers after 2000. Eastern Algonquin constitutes a separate genetic subgroup within Algonquin. Two other recognized groups of Algonquin languages, Plains Algonquin and Central Algonquin, are geographic but do not refer to genetic subgroupings. Classification. A consensus classification of the known Eastern Algonquin languages and dialects by Goddard is given below with some emendation. For example, treatment of Massachusetts and Narragansett as distinct languages. In the case of poorly attested languages, particularly in southern New England, conclusive classification of written records as representing separate languages or dialects may be ultimately impossible. Headings in uppercase denote proposed subgroups within Eastern Algonquin. 1. Mi'kmaqi, Abenakin. 2. Eastern Abenaki Penobscot, Canaba, Aroosakan Takuk, Pigwacket. 3. Western Abenaki. 4. Malisite Passamaquoddy Maliseet, Passamaquoddy. 5. Etchemin. 2. Southern New England. 6. Massachusetts North Shore, Natick, Wampanoag, Nauseed, Cowsert. 7. Narragansett. 8. Loup 9. Loup B 10. Mohegan Pequot Montic Mohegan, Pequot, Neatic, Montic, Shinnecock. 11. Quiripi Naugatuck Unquacoag Quiripi, Naugatuck, Unquacoag. 3. Delawaran. 12. Mohican Stockbridge, Moravian, Delaware. 13. Munsee. 14. Unami Northern Unami, Southern Unami, Unalaktigo. 15. Nanticoke, Piscataway, Choptank. 16. Powhatan. 17. Carolina Algonquin Notes on Classification. 1. Etchemin is only known from a list of words for numbers taken in 1609 from people living between the St. John and Kennebec rivers by Mark Lescarbot. The numbers in this list share features in common with different Algonquin languages from Massachusetts to New Brunswick, but as of set do not match any other known Algonquin language. Some other materials that have been labeled as Etchemin appear to represent other languages. 2. Lupe is the name given to an otherwise unknown language represented primarily by a single 124-page word list of a language probably spoken in central Massachusetts and nearby areas of northeastern Connecticut and northwestern Rhode Island. The manuscript contains some dialect mixture and may reflect the language of known tribes in the area such as Nipmuc. A more definitive conclusion is not possible. 3. Loup B is known only from a 14-page word list that represents a number of different speech varieties. It has some features of Mohican and Western Abenaki, but there is no further information available. Eastern Algonquin as a genetic subgroup. Pro and con. The languages assigned to the Eastern Algonquin group are hypothesized to descend from an intermediate common ancestor proto-language, referred to as Proto-Eastern Eastern Algonquin. By virtue of the common ancestry, the Eastern Algonquin languages constitute a genetic subgroup, and the individual Eastern Algonquin languages descend from P. By contrast, other Algonquin languages are hypothesized to descend directly from Proto-Algonquin, the ultimate common language ancestor of the Algonquin languages. In historical linguistics in general, the primary criterion for status as a genetic subgroup is that there are shared innovations assigned to the proposed subgroup that cannot be assigned to the ultimate ancestor language. A complex series of phonological and morphological innovations defined Eastern Algonquin as a subgroup. There is less diversity, by any measure, among as a group than among the Algonquin languages as a whole or among the non-Eastern languages. The validity of P as a genetic subgroup has been disputed by Pentland and Prolk. Pentland questions the Eastern Algonquin status of the Southern New England languages and Powhatan and Carolina Algonquin. Prolk has proposed that the similarities can be explained as the result of diffusion. Goddard has countered that the extent of the similarities would require extensive diffusion very early in the breakup of the Eastern Algonquin languages, and that such a position would be difficult in principle to differentiate from analyzing P as a genetic subgroup. Eastern Algonquin subgroupings. Similarities among subsets of some of the Eastern Algonquin languages have led to several proposals for further subgroupings within Eastern Algonquin, Abenaki, Southern New England Algonquin, and Delawarean, with the latter consisting of Mohican and Common Delaware, a further subgroup. The amount of evidence for each subgrouping varies, and the incomplete record for many parts of the Eastern Algonquin area makes interpretation of relations between the languages difficult. As well, diffusion means that some common features may have spread beyond their original starting point through contact, and as a result, a number of characteristics occur in a language assigned to a proposed subgroup, but the same feature is also found in other adjacent languages that are not analyzed as part of the subgroup in question. Appeal to both genetic subgroups and areal diffusion is required. Goddard notes, each Eastern Algonquin language shares features with each of its immediate neighbors, and the resulting continuum is of a sort that is likely to have resulted from the spread of linguistic innovations among forms of speech that were already partly differentiated but still similar enough to make partial bilingualism easy. Proceeding north to south, the languages of the Maritimes and New England are strongly differentiated from those farther south. At the same time, the Southern New England languages share significant similarities, indicating a closer degree of relationship between them. Mi'kmaq has innovated significantly relative to other Eastern Algonquin languages, particularly in terms of grammatical features, but it shares a number of phonological innovations and lexical features with Maliseet Passamaquoddy and Eastern and Western Abenaki. Abenakian. The proposed Abenakian subdivision comprises Eastern and Western Abenaki as well as Maliseet Passamaquoddy. Several phonological innovations are shared by the three languages. Southern New England Algonquin. Goddard notes the similarities shared by the Southern New England languages. Siebert made the first explicit proposal for a Southern New England subgroup. Costa develops the proposal in some detail, providing arguments based upon several shared innovations found within SNEA. Costa, largely following Siebert, proposes that the following languages are assigned to SNEA: Massachusetts, Narragansett, Mohegan, Pequot, Montauk, Quiripy, Naugatuck, Unquacoag, and Lupe. Etchemin may also have been part of this group, but the very small amount of material material available precludes a more definitive conclusion. Coster outlines 3 sound changes that are innovations uniquely assignable to Proto-Eastern Algonquin, and hence constitute evidence for the subgrouping palatalization of Proto-Eastern Algonquin *K, merger of P consonant clusters *hour and *hx, shift of word final P *r to S, as well, refining a proposal made by C. But Coster adduces evidence indicating an east-west split with the SNEA subgroup, on both phonological and lexical grounds. A distinction within SNEA can be made between a Western SNEA group consisting of the languages of Central and Eastern Long Island, Connecticut and Southern Rhode Island, Mohegan, Pequot, Montauk, Quiripy, Naugatuck, and Unquacoag, and an Eastern group consisting of Massachusetts and Narragansett Loop, probably aboriginally found on the northern border of the Western SNEA area and to the west of Massachusetts, would appear to share features of the Western and Eastern subgroups. Delawarean and Common Delaware. The closely related Lenape languages Munsee and Unami form a subgroup, with the 2 languages descending from an immediate ancestor called Common Delaware. Goddard notes a small number of innovations in morphology and phonology that set Munsee and Unami off from the neighbors. As well, similarities between the Delaware languages and Mohican have been recognized in that Mohican shares innovations with Munsee in Unami, suggesting a subgroup containing Common Delaware and Mohican. This group has been referred to as Delawarean.